Form without content. The process of learning Kung Fu or other arts such as painting or ballet is fraught with difficulty and potential pitfalls. Essentially, the instructor's role is to guide students through the training, helping them to avoid these pitfalls. One of the more common problems is students indiscriminately imitating the instructor's movements, just as budding artists mimic the techniques of masters like Da Vinci or Picasso. Fledgling Kung Fu practitioners mimic their instructors' elegant, powerful movements. Mimicking is a human nature. That's how children learn. However, a huge gap exists between the instructor's level and that of the student. When novice students watch the instructor's movements and then copy them, they can only produce a weak imitation of the original. It is like creating a Picasso painting with a paint by numbers kit. You can only produce a superficial, intimate imitation of the classic work. Even worse, students who habitually mimic their instructor's movements can kill their potential to reach a high level of expertise. The gap between the student and the instructor cannot be bridged without going through the step-by-step training process. You cannot hide from sweat, pain, or the labor of arduous training. There are no shortcuts. If you skip steps in the training process, you will have form minus the content. When you get into a real fighting situation, your lack of sufficient training will be painfully revealed. Students must realize that just as Rome was not built in a day, becoming a Kung Fu instructor requires years of dedicated practice. Instructors must be aware of the needs and abilities of their students. If an instructor is given a workshop, it is a good chance to learn something. I've often introduced my students in Taiwan, Japan, and the United States to other instructors for such occasions. In this short period, however, the information students can absorb is limited. They can quickly become confused if the instructor doesn't consider their level when he or she is teaching. In one instance, a noted instructor told several of my beginning students, the horse stance is double weighted. The weight is equally distributed on both legs. Hence, it is impractical for usage. My students then wondered why they spent so much time practicing the horse stance. Essentially, the instructor's advice was correct, but he didn't take into account the level of the students. The instructor's action in this case is comparable to the famous doctor who prescribes 500 milligrams instead of 50 milligrams of medicine for the patient. The overdose can adversely affect the student's progress. In terms of practical usage, of course, you don't want to be double weighted. The difference between training and usage, however, may not be clear to beginning students. Check any Kung Fu style and you will find that the horse stance is an essential part of the basic training. Practicing the horse stance builds a strong foundation, helping students to increase leg strength and improve balance. The horse stance, like a middle C note in a musical scale, also serves as the standard or home base. You can fluidly change from the horse stance to any other stance. In my own class, I divide the training into different levels. This arrangement gives students a clear idea of where they are in the training process and what they have to do to improve. The famous Chang Quan long fist forms, for example, are divided into 3 levels. While the forms don't change within each level, the way to perform them differs. In the first level, movements are done one by one while making sure each technique is performed correctly. Some postures can be held for a number of breaths to help build the student's foundation. During this stage, students should not be concerned with performing the movements fast or with a lot of power. The second level adds advancing and retreating steps to the techniques, giving students a better idea of how to apply the step in usage. Students learn how to adjust the distance, timing, and angle according to the demands of the situation. Step training also helps students to improve their leg stability. When students reach the third level, their legs are stronger and long fist forms can be done smoothly and accurately. This compatibility allows them to gain more control over the movements and capture the distinctive flavor of the style. At this stage, the Kung Fu practitioner is like the artist who has spent years carefully studying the technique of the masters and is now ready to create his or her own masterpiece. Students are required to develop their own tempo and rhythm, blending the form with their own character. Thus, each practitioner's rendering of the form will be somewhat different. Some students are too clever and try to practice the higher level before they are ready. If their foundation is not strong enough to perform second level step training, for example, students may compensate by executing the techniques incorrectly, which can destroy their potential. Obviously, Kung Fu cannot benefit from an environment that inhibits students from developing the correct skills. I encourage all instructors to set up clearly defined training levels. The requirements of different levels can then be used as a means of qualifying students for promotion. This way, we can ensure the authentic Kung Fu tradition will be preserved, and each student will at least have a chance to become a martial artist and not just an imitator.